Welcome to day 3 of the Swiss stage. Spoilers for that if you haven't seen it. Here's my tier list from after day 2. Only a couple teams are playing today, so we'll see how much it changes. Not too much, but maybe a little bit. The most important thing that happened in this day is that Gen G is looking strong. Pays is back, and they defeated Unreal Life in some pretty impressive games. So let's hop into that. We see that Unreal Life almost has a 2k gold lead. It's not uncommon for Gen G to get behind in the early game in these games, despite how good their mid-game, late-game team fighting is. Early games are always a sign of weakness for a team. If you've seen my tier list video, you would know that I'm not very impressed by this team comp. I think that Nocturne is a really below average champ. I think Ahri is average to below average champ. And Aurora, I also have not been impressed with this tournament. Here, we see that Nocturne turns off the lights, and there's 5 HLE members. They've seen Aurora in the mid lane, so they can just go in. They're 5, just go in and kill them. 5v4, you're up 2k gold lead, but they're not on the same page, right? So when Gen G comes in, here on the Gnar, he's actually backing up to, I guess, keep the Aurora out. I don't know exactly what Gnar is thinking, but the fight is just totally split. Now these guys are going up, but Zeka did not get the memo because he's going in this 2v4 instead of just flashing over the wall and retreating. So these two are going in, and Rel doesn't know which way to go, and so there's just so much uncertainty when all they needed to do was just say, we saw Aurora mid lane, 5v4, let's go. Just kill them. And then here, bad macro from HLE. They've sent 3 bot lane for this Ahri, including the jungler. And so Gen G just rushes the Baron, because junglers don't have TP, and there's no way the jungler can get back in time. By the time the Sejuani finally gets here, the Baron's already gone. So here, HLE get a little bit caught out, trapped by the Aurora, and the Nocturne comes in. And they just have a numbers advantage, so HLE can't fight back here. And then what happens here is Gen G gets over aggressive. They see a 5v4. They don't realize that they're all clumping up teeny tiny. And the Rel flash stun into R, into Yone R, the Wombo combo. That kills everybody. Kai'Sa comes in with the R, gets the final kills. Now, people are going to call me a Yone hater, which I am. But let's be honest, at this point, 4-man knockup, multi-man stun on Delight, Yone is just as good as any other mid laner here. Orianna Shockwave would have completely blown this fight up. Syndra QE onto everyone. Smolder Qs and Ultimate would have blown this fight up. So yes, Yone does a good job here, but a lot of the damage is also coming from Viper and Doran, and most other mid laners would have gotten an equally good response from that amazing Rel engage. And now there are a couple of things that make this extra powerful from HLE. The first is that their team has no tankiness, as I mentioned. It doesn't really have CC, as I mentioned, just a little bit out of Lehends. And they had already spent a lot of it on that earlier fight. The light came here so fast. I don't think Gen G really knew what was happening. Like you can see from the Lehends that he doesn't even use the bailout on Pays or Canyon. I think he's like a little bit in shock how quickly they all died, because he should have the bailout up here. And what really makes it so strong is that this wasn't just a Rel Yone coming in when Gen G had all their cooldowns up. Gen G had burnt all their cooldowns here. The Aurora R is burnt, the Aurora Invisible is burnt, the Nocturne W is burnt, so when the engage comes in, he doesn't have the shield up. So many of their cooldowns are down, so this engage is way more powerful than an ordinary Rel Yone engage. And here, Unreal Life is now 5k gold up, and this Gen G comp was bad to begin. It cannot play 5 gold down. You cannot play Ahri Nocturne 5k gold down. There's just no damage. And so we see they just have damage problems. Can't kill the Rel, can't kill the Gnar, can't kill the Yone. So nice job for HLE closing out that game, but the comp from Gen G pretty bad. Then in game 2, they picked the same 3 mediocre champs again. Oh no. You put Zeka, one of your best players, on Akali. Akali does stuff like this. Lands the E shuriken on Pays, and then when he follows, Pays hops over the wall, and the Akali is just totally isolated. And then in this final fight, Keen on the Aurora just has Viper's number. You cannot imagine a more useless AD carry in a 1v1 against Aurora than Jhin. It's like negative damage coming down. At the same time, we see Zeka on the Akali struggling a lot. The Shuriken flip lands on this minion marked here. He flies back into the minion, but he gets caught up inside the Aurora R, and he kind of refuses to accept it. He's trying to get on Paze, but he doesn't accept that there's a wall in the way, so he derps into the wall, and then I think he casts R and hits the wall again. And then finally, the R2 comes through, and he's dead by then. So what he needed to do right here is when he's Eing into the R is to say, okay, I'm trapped. Paze, I have to let go of Paze. Just turn on Keen. And I can kill Keen, and that'll save Viper, and then maybe we'll take a longer fight. But he's just tunnel visioned on Paze and keeps running into the wall. And Gen G is able to take the game from there. So Gen G lock in the same 3 champs that I don't like again. We see here the Nocturne being completely useless. The Aurora being very squishy and trapping their own teammates in it. Paze is doing some good damage up here, but HLE still winning the fight. And then here, again, miscommunication from HLE. Sejuani is backing off, is going to flash out, so they just need to say back, back, back. Doran, go back. Doran does not go back. He thinks they have a numbers advantage. He's going in, and he flashes, wastes that flash because he gets picked. So HLE just not having that same coordination in the fights that Gen G is known for, and Gen G really taking advantage of that. Now this is the huge team fight. They get the pick onto the Leona, but now the Aurora traps them in, and this invisible Twitch is coming around to just unleash the R and melt everybody. This is such a hard fight to play because you don't have that much DPS. Mega Gnar is down. Varus is like a little bit of damage, but not that much DPS, and so it's all on Zeka. And so the problem is Zeka feels this enormous pressure to play safe. We see that he bumps into this Aurora wall, thinking that maybe he'll be able to fly out, and that slows him. And then he's just like, I'm the only damage, I can't die. He's playing so safe, runs up. He's like, what every AD carry does, right? If you don't feel safe, get out of there. The issue is that his entire team dies while he's playing so safe. What he actually needed to do, which I don't criticize him for because it's the hardest thing in the world to know in a split second what you should do, right? But you need to just go all in. The entire benefit of playing against the squishiest team that's ever lived is that you can just pull the trigger and throw all your damage at them when you're a Smolder with 225 stacks. So here, if instead of backing up, the Smolder had just gone all in, hitting Canyon, hitting Keen, see how he's backing up? If he had been going in and doing damage, we see that when this bailout comes in onto Viper, Viper might have been able to get one of these kills, right? And if Viper got one of those kills, Viper's coming back to life. Look how close. If Smolder had been able to get one auto or Q onto the Aurora, Viper might be coming back to life here, and the whole team fight might have gone differently, right? And Zeka chose wrong in that case, but again, I don't really blame him because you can't imagine a harder decision to make or a higher pressure environment. Pei is kind of inting in this fight because this time there is no distraction. He's the only thing for them to focus on, and so they just kill him instantly. So a little greedy there from Pei's. Ruining his KDA for my crystal ball. Very interesting situation because you might say that Gen G has a lead. They don't need to 50-50 on this Baron, but their team comp actually sucks, and Smolder's getting stronger and stronger, right? So I think that they know that, you know, they don't necessarily want to make the game take forever, so they go for the 50-50 and they end up winning it. But this is a bit risky for Gen G. If Sejuani had gotten this, the game could have gone very differently. And here the game's over, 8k gold lead, but you just see Gen G's immaculate team synergy. Stopwatch here, and then at the exact millisecond, Nocturne comes in, Leona flashes in, Paze is on you with his ultimate, and Chovy's coming in on the Ahri, and you are just completely overwhelmed. This is why Gen G keeps winning fights against every team, and why I currently have them as the strongest team in the tournament. So very strong performance from Gen G, and I'm giving them extra points because I think their team comp is bad. Here in D plus Kia versus LNG, LNG has just kind of bled them out to get this 3k gold lead. And they find this pick onto aiming. And now Showmaker going crazy on the Smolder. And Smolder Eing in is the equivalent of like Ezreal Eing in. You just don't do it if you're not sure that you'll be safe. And he ends up being punished super hard for that. Flash engage out of the Rel. They try to save the Smolder. They lose 2 more for that. LNG showing a lot this tournament that if you give them a gold lead, they're not going to drop the ball. They showed the same thing against BLG, that they got one really good fight, and then once they had a lead, they just locked him down. Scout is playing really well, and this team is just putting so much pressure on you that if you drop a single fight, if you give them a gold lead, that pressure will just smash you. Here in game 2, we have this 5v4, so DK should not be fighting this, and then after they lose this, now it's a 5v3, but Vi is still going in. She should not be queuing in here, and when she tries to queue in, gets dodged by the Camille R, dodges the Q. So that was pretty slick from Zika on the Camille. Kingen was just not in the fight at all. Here they see Zika flanking on the Camille, and so they try to turn on her. The Vi goes in again, but once again, Zika dodges the Vi with the R. Tankiness from the Galio comes in, and Camille also has tankiness from the Sterix gauge, so they just can't finish her off. Despite throwing everything at her, they throw the Ignite at her, and now they just don't have that much damage left after everything they've thrown at the Camille trying to pick her off. But here on the re-engage, aiming flashes in. You should just be running for your life. At this point, your team has basically no DPS except the Kai'Sa. So if your Kai'Sa's not there, you shouldn't be fighting. And the Kai'Sa is not on the same page. She's like, what are we doing, guys? I thought we were leaving. So LNG showing some of those team communication problems we were seeing from HLE earlier, that you need to make the call super clear. Are we fighting back or are we just running for our lives? The important thing though, even though everyone on LNG dies, is they actually picked up the Mountain Soul during that fight. And that's actually basically game over. And we'll see that in a sec. So here for this Elder fight, yeah, DK is 3k gold up, but do they have Mountain Soul, this shield on Zika? We see that Vi goes for the R again, but Zika's going to dodge this one too with the R. Adaptive shield, also Galio shield. Still can't kill Zika. Also the Sterix gauge. There's like 12 different types of shields. There's just no way they can get through this Mountain Soul. Now this goofy looking comp with the 3 tanks isn't looking so bad. And then here, final fight, if you thought LNG was tanky before, now they have 2 GAs on the 80 carry and on Zika. Now they have a gold lead. Just imagine being Showmaker Ahri and aiming Ziggs versus like 3 of the tankiest tanks you've ever seen. They can they don't know who to attack, no matter who they attack. Ridiculous tankiness. They throw everything on Zika just to get the GA out, and they can just kill aiming little bit by little bit way before any of them are in danger of dying. Complete tank storm. So really great performance from LNG. Again, once they got the lead, they were down in gold like they often are in the early game. So you do have to be careful that these Gen G and LNGs, even though they play really well when they're ahead, there is always the opportunity that they get a little too far behind. They never get that one key team fight and they can get blown up. It hasn't happened yet this tournament, but trust me that it could happen, and we're going to want to factor that in when we're making our top 8 pick'em predictions, that there is a little bit of weakness there for both those teams. So I'm going to move HLE down to the bottom of the top tier because they were not able to punish that super squish comp out of Gen G in 2 out of the 3 games. And then I don't know whether to move LNG up to the top tier or not. That was a good performance, but it's not like D plus Kia is a top team. They did beat that BLG once. Maybe I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're up here. I don't know if they're better than Onwa Life. But I still think that BLG would beat LNG if they had a rematch. I think it was a little bit of a fluke. Maybe I'm just a BLG fan too much. But I think this is a pretty good statement of where we at. Not a lot of information on T1 and G2 yet, so they could move up or down a lot, I think, depending on what we see in the next couple days. All right, fantastic day of games. People who have voted for Gen G to win the whole thing, which is not me, should be pretty happy right now because they're looking scary strong in those team fights. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you aren't already, and watch all the most important things from day 2 and day 1, those videos, if you haven't watched them yet. Super exciting stuff. And thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time.